Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Jonna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. And on the show today, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed trilateral talks with the United States and Russia in the UAE this Wednesday and Thursday. And this even as preparations begin for the diplomatic talks, violence continues on the ground. A Russian drone strike in Dnipro hit a bus carrying mine workers, killing 15 people and injuring 7. We'll get you all the details on that on the show.
Also on World DNA, US President Donald Trump says he remains hopeful of reaching a deal with Iran even as tensions escalate. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has warned that any US attack on Iran would trigger a wider regional war after the deadly crackdown on protests and Washington's deployment of an aircraft carrier strike group to West Asia. We'll bring you all the details from that front. Let's start with the headlines first. This is World DNA.
Couple of days, and hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we'll find out whether or not he was right.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he is hopeful of agreeing on a deal with Iran, even as Iran's Supreme Leader warned that any U.S. attack would trigger a regional war.
An Iranian official has denied plans to carry out live-fire exercises in the Strait of Hormuz this week. Earlier, Iran's state-run media had reported that the Islamic Revolutionary Guards would hold the drill.
Ukraine says a Russian drone strike hit a bus carrying mine workers in Dnipro, killing at least 15 people. The strike injured 7 others and sparked a fire.
President Trump says US is talking with Cuban leaders to strike a deal. Trump has moved to cut off supplies of oil from Venezuela and Mexico to host Havana, the negotiating table.
Former British Minister Peter Mandelson quits Labour Party after release of more photos and documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson was sacked as British envoy to US last year over his past connections to Epstein.
Pakistan says it will boycott its Group League match against India at the upcoming T20 Cricket World Cup, even as its government cleared teams' participation in the rest of the event.
Oil prices fell by over $1 a barrel as traders react to US-Iran talks and comments from President Trump. Brent and US crude slide more than 2% amid eased geopolitical risk and OPEC keeping output unchanged. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that he is hopeful of agreeing on a deal with Iran.
Trump has threatened military action time and again and even ordered the dispatch of an aircraft carrier group to West Asia following the Iranian authorities' deadly response to anti-government protests that peaked last month in January. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Sunday likened the protests to a coup, warning that a U.S. attack would trigger a broader conflict, a wider war. Trump, however, downplayed Khamenei's warning in response to a journalist's question.
Why wouldn't he say that? Of course he would say that, but We have the biggest, most powerful ships in the world over there, very close, a couple of days, and hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we'll find out whether or not he was right.
An Axios report suggests that the Trump administration has told Iran through multiple channels that it's open to meeting to negotiate a deal. Now, two visual sources cited in the report say Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar are working to organize a meeting between U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and senior Iranian officials in Ankara later this week.
As diplomatic efforts continue to ease tensions, Iranian authorities ordered the release of detained 26-year-old protester Irfan Soltani on bail. He was arrested in January for what Iran's judiciary said were charges of propaganda against the Islamic Republic.
Well, he was released on bail after Washington warned he was on death row and threatened an attack if any anti-government demonstrators were executed. However, Iran said Soltani had never been sentenced to death and that the charges against him did not carry death penalty.
U.S. is also reportedly preparing for Iranian strikes. A report by the Wall Street Journal suggests the U.S. is deploying additional air defense systems to West Asia to bolster protection for Israel and its Arab allies. According to the report, the Pentagon is moving THAAD and Patriot air defenses to bases with U.S. personnel across the region.
Now, it was the U.S. air defenses, in addition to those operated by Israel, that played a crucial role in protecting Israel during the 12-day war with Iran in 2025 and two previous missile and drone attacks launched by the Islamic Republic in 2024.
Amid this, Prime Minister of Israel held meetings with top security officials after the IDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, returned from Washington, where he discussed Iran with U.S. officials. The law enforcement system in Israel has come under serious scrutiny after a spike in the violence against Israeli Arab communities.
And Israeli Arab accounts for close to 1/5 of the country's population, and thousands of protesters have taken to the streets of Tel Aviv. Israeli citizens across religious lines marched towards Hostage Square in Israel's capital. The protesters called upon the Benjamin Netanyahu-led government to treat members of the Israeli Arab community fairly. Ahmad Tibi, a member of Israel's parliament, said that all Israeli citizens deserve to be treated equally.
Gangs are indirectly supported by the negligence of this government. We are shouting here loudly. We want peaceful life. We want personal security. It's a basic right. We should not demand it day and night. It should be given to all citizens equally, and it is not.
In a powerful message to the government, Jewish Israeli protesters stressed that the lives of all citizens should matter irrespective of their ethnicity.
As an Israeli, all lives should matter to me. Palestinian lives are just as important as mine, and if we don't care for lives of all the people who live here, we are not doing our purpose as the Jewish people.
The data paints a bleak picture regarding the status of the Israeli Arab community. As per the Arum Initiative NGO, a total of 252 Israeli citizens of Arab origin were murdered last year. The charges were filed against suspects in only 8% of these cases. This is as opposed to 55% when murder victims are Israeli Jews. Additionally, the rate of killings among Israeli Arabs was 22 times higher than that of their Jewish fellow citizens. And this January alone, at least 25 Israeli Arabs have been murdered.
While the Israeli authorities have rejected allegations of apathy, they are scrambling to deal with the situation because many members of the Arab community have gone on strike. Protests had erupted over the issue last year as well after 15-year-old Nabil Safia was murdered outside a pizza parlor in northern Israel.
Now, Syria's Kurdish-led forces have imposed a curfew in 2 cities in the country's northeast.
This is following a recent deal with the government in Damascus. Kurdish security forces announced the curfew in Hasakeh and Kamishli, saying the measure is intended to maintain security, stability, and the safety of residents. According to the head of the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, a limited internal security force would enter parts of these 2 cities, but no military forces will enter any Kurdish city or town. As part of the deal, both sides will also pull forces back from the frontline positions in parts of the northeast, including from the northern town of Kobani.
On Sunday, dozens of former members of Kurdish forces lined up outside a newly established reconciliation center to regularize their legal status with the new Syrian government. They included former members of the Kurdish-led security agency in north and eastern Syria. It includes Arabs as well as Kurds and Syrian Democratic Forces.
The center facilitates the reconciliation process for SDF members. Any member who regularizes their status within the legal time frame protects themselves and can move freely by presenting their ID with the document that protects them within the city. Anyone who delays the settlement process exposes themselves to legal accountability.
Reconciliation centers provide identity verification and amnesty procedures for those formerly affiliated with the Kurdish-led SDF. According to officials, the centers have been operating since last month after the government forces took control of Raqqa and have received over 2,000 people.
Meanwhile, thousands of Kurdish people demonstrated in Kamishli to show support for its armed groups. Demonstrators waved flags and held posters of people killed in recent clashes with the government forces in eastern Syria.
This demonstration is for Rojava, northeast Syria, and it is to reject the attacks on us, which kill people and civilians. We demand the unity of the Kurds in all 4 parts of Kurdistan. Long live the unity of the Kurds and the whole of Kurdish nation.
We came out to demand the unity of the Kurdish people, and after the attacks launched on us, we proved our Kurdishness, and there was a unity stance which made us very happy. So we came out to celebrate that all Kurds came together and united.
Damascus and Kurdish forces reached a comprehensive agreement on Friday to gradually integrate the Kurdish military and civilian institutions into the state after the Kurds ceded territory to advancing government forces in recent weeks.
Information Minister Hamza Mustafa told state media that the agreement included the handover of some oil fields, the Kamishli airport and border crossings to the government within 10 days. He said SDF fighters would be integrated on an individual basis into several brigades being formed under the Army's command.
And over to the Russia-Ukraine front, at least 15 people were killed in a Russian drone attack targeting a bus carrying mine workers in Ukraine's central eastern Dnipro region.
And the bus was driving in the vicinity of Ternivka, a town about 65 kilometers from the front line. The images issued by Ukraine's State Emergencies Service show an empty bus with its side windows shattered and windscreen hanging from front. The charred bus appeared to have veered off the road. DTEK, Ukraine's largest private energy firm, said those killed were traveling from one of its mining facilities in the region after they had finished their shift.
The head of the regional military administration said on Telegram that the drone hit near a company shuttle bus in the Pavlograd region, resulting in 15 immediate casualties and wounding 7 others. In an earlier post, he also confirmed the death of a woman and a man in overnight drone strikes on the city of Dnipro.
Now, the attacks came the same day. A unilateral reduction in Russian strikes on Ukraine announced by U.S. President Donald Trump was due to end. Trump said on Thursday that Putin had agreed to stop strikes on Kyiv and various towns during cold weather. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed condolences to the victims of the attack and has dubbed it a crime.
Today's Russian attack on a bus in the Dnipro region is a crime, a show-stopping crime, which once again demonstrates that Russia is responsible for the escalation. The evil must stop.
On Sunday, a Russian drone struck a maternity hospital in Ukraine's southern Zaporizhia region, wounding at least 7 people, including 2 women receiving a medical examination.
Meanwhile, President Zelensky has delayed the second round of peace talks slated for Sunday till Wednesday. Zelensky confirmed on Sunday that trilateral talks between Ukraine, US, and Russian officials will be taking place on Wednesday and Thursday in the UAE this week.
Нам важливо, яка у нас земля. Ми будемо битись за неї до кінця.
Now, SpaceX has said that it has stopped Moscow's unauthorized use of the Starlink satellite internet service.
And this is after Ukraine raised concerns about Russian drones using Starlink to attack targets on Ukrainian soil.
Now, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk confirmed this development in social media post. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense had earlier contacted SpaceX and proposed concrete ways to resolve the issue.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's defense minister revealed that no one had been killed by Russian drones using Starlink in recent days due to corrective measures by SpaceX. The minister added that Ukraine will implement a new system under which only authorized Starlink terminals can operate on its territory.
SpaceX came to Ukraine's rescue in 2022 after Moscow strikes crippled most of its communication network, and since then, over 50,000 Starlink terminals have been delivered to Kiev. Ukraine's military largely depends on the satellite internet network for battlefield communication and for drone missions, owing to its stable connection and resistance to enemy signal jamming.
Concerns arose when the US-based Institute for Study of War claimed that Russia had been using Starlink-equipped Shahid long-range drones from September 2024 onwards. Some experts had suspected the use of Starlink when 3 Iranian-made Shahid drones hit a Ukrainian passenger train on Tuesday. The train was hit as it was traveling in the eastern Kharkiv region, killing at least 5 people.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has hinted at possible negotiations with senior Cuban leaders amid rising tensions between the two countries.
This statement comes days after he threatened to restrict oil supply to Havana. While addressing the media, he described Cuba as a failing nation that has lost support from Venezuela. He even added that Washington is in talks with the highest people in Cuba to make a deal. However, he did not reveal any details regarding this deal.
Well, Cuba's a failing nation. It has been for a long time, but now it doesn't have Venezuela to prop it up. So we're talking to the people from Cuba, the highest people in Cuba, to see what happens. So I think we're going to make a deal with Cuba.
Venezuela had been a major ally and a crucial source of oil exports to Cuba, but that support ended following capture of an ouster of President Nicolas Maduro by U.S. And since then, Washington has stepped up pressure on the island nation.
Last week, President Trump signed an executive order threatening additional tariffs on countries that sell or supply oil to Havana. On the other hand, Cuba's government has accused Trump of trying to economically strangle the island, where daily power cuts are worsening and queues at petrol stations continue to grow.
Meanwhile, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has announced that Mexico will send food aid to Cuba.
This week, we are planning humanitarian aid to Cuba, which will be provided by the Ministry of the Navy in the form of food and other products, while we resolve diplomatically everything related to the shipment of oil for humanitarian reasons.
Former British Cabinet Minister Peter Mandelson has quit the Labour Party.
And this is after his name appeared in the latest cache of files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson was sacked as Britain's ambassador to the United States last year over his ties to the convicted sex offender. Mandelson has said that he has resigned his membership of the Labour Party to avoid causing further embarrassment to the party. Documents suggest Epstein made $75,000 in payments to Mandelson in 3 separate transactions in 2003 and 2004. Mandelson claims he has no memory of the transfers and did not know whether the documents were authentic.
Mandelson also appeared in newly released undated photographs wearing a t-shirt and underwear besides a woman whose face has been redacted by US authorities. In January, Mandelson had apologized to Epstein's victims and for his friendship with him.
While former Prince Andrew, who is stripped of his royal titles last year over his ties to Epstein, was also named in the files released on Friday.
The latest release contains undated photos of him kneeling on all fours over a woman lying on the floor. Asked whether Andrew should testify in the US Congress as repeatedly demanded, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said yes.
Another royal in headlines is Norway's crown princess. Her name appears at least 1,000 times in the freshly released documents, and she has now apologized for her embarrassing friendship with Epstein.
The leak comes at a bad time for the royal, whose 29-year-old son goes on trial at Oslo's district court on Tuesday. He is accused of 38 crimes, including rape of 4 women, as well as an assault, along with drug offenses. He denies the most serious charges.
Meanwhile, a top U.S. prosecutor has signaled that authorities would not bring any more charges in the case. The Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche told U.S. media the prosecutor's review of the case is now over.
In a separate interview, he said that the review concluded that there was no such information to warrant more prosecutions. Blanche is the point person on the Trump administration's Epstein files release.
Now, even as the measles outbreak in the U.S. has reached new heights with 416 new cases recorded this year, U.S. has decided to reconsider all vaccine recommendations.
And this comes barely a month after the country cut down its number of mandatory vaccines for children. Kirk Milhoan, chair of the U.S. Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, told the New York Times that additional changes will be made to the childhood vaccination list this year.
He advocated that most vaccines should be made optional and offered only in consultation with a doctor. And according to him, this would restore trust in public health. Well, this move has drawn flack from medical experts.
In the month of January, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services reduced the number of vaccines recommended for all children, while universal immunization catered to 16 diseases earlier. Only 11 diseases are covered now. Vaccines for hepatitis A, hepatitis B, rotavirus, meningococcal disease and influenza are now optional. Patients can take them after consulting their doctors. It is worth noting that the COVID-19 vaccine was already made optional last year.
This decision was taken by studying the vaccination pattern of 20 countries across Europe, Australia, and Asia. U.S. attributed the removal of vaccines for hepatitis A and meningococcal disease, citing a low incidence rate. As far as rotavirus is concerned, the government found no risk of mortality. And when it comes to influenza, it stressed that there is no evidence to show efficacy of the vaccine.
While U.S. hasn't given a timeline on when the new vaccine recommendations will be released, concerns remain over whether the Trump administration's approach can lead to an increase in preventable diseases. A brutal winter storm is rewriting the weather of southern United States.
It is burying cities under snow and dragging dangerous Arctic cold into places that rarely see it. The storm surged in just days after a massive winter blast swept across much of the country. The disaster had already claimed more than 100 lives and left communities struggling to recover. This weekend, the focus shifted south. Snow blanketed North and South Carolina, with snow piling up nearly 40 centimeters. Almost 750 vehicle crashes were reported in North Carolina in a single day. Parts of Virginia and Tennessee also reported double-digit snow accumulation.
Forecasters have warned that getting standard outdoors could turn deadly within minutes. Snow crews and rescue teams have been working relentlessly to keep American cities safe and running.
The Emergency Management Division for the state has been preparing all week. For the prior event last weekend to this weekend, they were prepared and taking care of the roads as deemed necessary when they get calls to ice the roads, treat the roads as necessary.
The weather has put power systems under strain, and more than 150 customers remain without electricity across parts of the American South, with Mississippi, Tennessee, and Louisiana hit hardest. Emergency shelters and warming centers are opening, and generators are being rushed to hospitals and critical sites.
The American space program felt the freeze as well, and NASA postponed a key fueling test of its rocket to the moon at Cape Canaveral. This could delay a scheduled crewed lunar flyby later this month.
Now it's time for a very short break on World DNA. Don't go anywhere. Lost signed up on the other side. The Tibetan community living in exile participated in the first phase of elections to choose the Sikyong and members of the 18th Tibetan Parliament in exile. We'll get you all the details on the other side.
The International Cricket Council has responded to Pakistan's decision to boycott its February 15th match against India at the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2026, calling the move a serious concern for the global game. We'll bring you the details on the other side. Stay with us. This is World DNA.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss on this side of the show. Let's start with the headlines.
And hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we'll find out whether or not he was right.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he is still hopeful of agreeing on a deal with Iran. The reports say Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar are working to organize a meeting between White House envoy Steve Witkoff and senior Iranian officials in Ankara later this week.
Ukraine says a Russian drone strike hit a bus carrying mine workers in Dnipro, killing at least 15 people. The strike injured 7 others and sparked the fire.
The Islamic State releases a video claiming to show its attack on an Air Force base in Niger's capital. At least 4 soldiers were injured and several aircraft damaged in Thursday's assault at the Diori Hamani International Airport.
Former British Minister Peter Mandelson quits the Labour Party after the release of more photos and documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson was sacked as a British envoy to the US last year over his past connections to Epstein.
Five-year-old Liam Ramos and his dad returned to Minnesota after being released by ICE from a Texas facility. The two were detained in a Minneapolis suburb on January 20th, sparking outrage over the Trump administration immigration crackdown.
Donald Trump says US is talking with Cuban leaders to strike a deal. Trump has moved to cut off supplies of oil from Venezuela and Mexico to force Havana to the negotiating table.
President Trump announces he is closing the Kennedy Center for 2 years for a thorough renovation. Since returning to office, Trump has launched a forceful takeover of the Washington Arts Complex and even added his own name to the facade.
Gold and silver extend sharp losses after a dramatic reversal from record-breaking rallies. Prices slid as traders booked profits, erasing much of last week's gains, with gold around $4,600 an ounce and silver falling below $80.
Malaysia's landmark Batu Caves light up in a sea of color as hundreds of thousands of Hindu devotees gather to celebrate Thai Pusam festival. Ethnic Indians make up about 7% of the population in a Muslim-majority nation.
The International Cricket Council says that it hasn't received any official communication regarding Pakistan boycotting its T20 World Cup match against India, but urges the PCB to consider the long-term implications of such a decision. The Tibetan community living in exile participated in the first phase of elections to choose the head of the parliament in exile.
Now it is referred to as Sikyong. The polls are being held in different parts of the world, including the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh, where the Central Tibetan administration set up 3 polling booths at different locations to facilitate voting by Tibetans residing in the state.
The voting is being conducted in a 2-phased manner, with the last phase to be held on 26th of April. The results are due on the 13th of May.
It is unique in the sense that no other nation or entity has such an election that is being held in 27 countries around the world. And this is election not just for the governance of administration, but it's more about electing leadership for leading cause that is for freedom of Tibet.
Beijing, which calls Tibet an integral part of China, condemned the elections as a farce. China's Foreign Ministry, in a written statement to the AFP media, said the Tibetan government in exile is nothing but a separatist political group.
91,000 registered voters reject that view. Many see the vote as the most consequential moment for them since their Buddhist spiritual leader, Dalai Lama, fled Chinese rule in 1959.
Sikyong's role was created in 2012 after the Dalai Lama relinquished political authority in favor of an organization that could outlive him. While current Sikyong, Pempa Sering, is seeking a second term, like many, he does not seek full independence for Tibet, in line with the Dalai Lama's long-standing middle way policy seeking autonomy. But Australia-based Doring Tenzing Phuntsok, campaigning for re-election, called voting part of continual process of the freedom struggle.
Tibet, so it could be only Chinese. The ideas of the vision.
And India's budget for financial year 2026-2027 is out.
Well, the world's fourth largest economy has laid out its financial priorities for its fiscal year, and it also has a long-term vision keeping 2047 in mind. Apart from the decisions on investments, taxation and allocations for different sectors, India's budget also reflects its long-standing neighborhood first policy.
While continuing a long-standing tradition, New Delhi has announced development aid for several neighboring countries, and these include Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, Afghanistan and Myanmar.
After a nosedive in ties, India has cut down allocations in Bangladesh. Despite tensions in relations after the ouster of Sheikh Hasina in 2024, Bangladesh will receive 60 crore rupees of aid. However, this is 50% lower than what Dhaka received just last year. Maldives and Myanmar have received cuts in aid they received last year. Sri Lanka will be receiving 400 crore in developmental aid from India, and this is 33% more than earlier. Allocation to Bhutan, Nepal, Mauritius has also been increased, while Afghanistan will be receiving the same aid that it received last year.
Well, one of the major shifts from recent past has come on Iran front. The country's budget shows no allocation for Chabahar port project. The port is a central piece of India's international north-south transport corridor, which connects Mumbai to Moscow via Caspian Sea through various land routes.
India has committed to developing a Shahid Beheshti terminal under a 10-year agreement signed in 2024, with the agreement's future remaining uncertain, as New Delhi has received a 6-month waiver from US sanctions on Iran's Chabahar port, which is set to expire on the 26th of April. On top of this, US President Trump has warned of a 25% tariff on countries trading with Iran.
Now, from tensions in West Asia to changing regional dynamics, India's budget allocation for neighboring countries reflect the shifting trends in South Asia's geopolitics.
Thousands rallied in Karachi on Sunday, demanding the resignations of local officials and systemic reforms following a devastating shopping mall fire that killed dozens last month.
Now, the demonstration underscores growing public anger over civic failures in Pakistan's largest city, and approximately 4,000 people marched under the slogan, "Enough is enough," in a rally organized by the political Islamist party, Jamaat-e-Islami. The protesters cited chronic water and power shortages, poor emergency services, and crumbling infrastructure as key grievances.
Our demand is clear: compensation for the families of those who died in the Gul Plaza incident, and compensation for the traders who suffered losses. They should be given alternative support to help them rebuild their businesses. The people of Karachi deserve to live with dignity, but you're not providing them with basic necessities like water and electricity. When there's a fire, you're incapable of rescue, and when it rains, the city is flooded. Our infrastructure is in shambles.
While the protesters have accused the city's administration of failing to provide basic utilities and competent emergency services, the city and provincial authorities have pointed to rapid urbanization and funding limits when addressing infrastructure issues.
Well, nonetheless, the protest increases political pressure on the ruling Pakistan People's Party, which governs Sindh province and Karachi. The blaze at the Gul Plaza shopping mall in January had left at least 67 dead, while the remains of dozens of more people were retrieved from the fire-gutted plaza nearly 3 days after the incident. The city has a long history of deadly fires, often linked to poor safety standards, weak regulatory enforcement, and illegal construction. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping sparked a buzz across the world by sacking the country's top general Zhang Yuxia.
While speculations are rife about the trigger for the sustained military purge, it is increasingly being linked to Xi's Taiwan ambition. More than 20 senior military commanders in China have been investigated. They've been sidelined or they've been removed since mid-2023 as part of a broader anti-corruption campaign. Apart from Zhang, General Liu Zhenli has also been sacked for alleged corruption and disloyalty. And this has left China's top military body with only 2 members, including Xi Jinping himself.
While Chinese state media accuse Zhang of trampling upon a system meant to ensure Xi's authority, a report suggests that the senior general paid a price for opposing the Chinese president's timeline for invading Taiwan. According to former CIA Director Bill Burns, the Chinese president instructed his army to be ready by 2027 to conduct a successful invasion of Taiwan.
General Zhang's recent speeches showed his focus was on a training program that would have delayed any plans to attack Taiwan for the foreseeable future. Geopolitical experts also view the military purge as a removal of constraints on the Chinese president, thereby increasing the possibility of a Taiwan invasion.
The danger, I think, in a medium and longer term is that the use of force by China, in my view, is more likely if constraints are removed from Xi Jinping. So if this is indeed a political power grab by Xi Jinping, and if it means there are fewer constraints on Xi Jinping, in a medium term, I think this increases the likelihood of the use of force against Taiwan.
Heightened military activity has raised tensions between China and Taiwan. And for instance, China conducted live military drills around Taiwan late last year, weeks after the U.S. announced a more than $11 billion arms package for Taipei. Earlier this week, Taiwan's Navy held a drill and simulated repelling a Chinese assault from sea, integrating missiles and drones with fast patrol boats to stop an attempted invasion.
With China's military modernization and growing defense spending, Taiwan remains in full alert mode. Just a few days ago, Taiwan's army conducted an exercise showcasing a range of weapons, including its high-mobility artillery rocket system, tanks and drones. It also involved mock scenarios against invading forces. Severe winter weather has brought life to a standstill in Japan.
While heavy snow continues to hit the country's northern and western region, major traffic disruptions due to relentless snowfall have resulted in dangerous road conditions in Japan's affected regions. Here's the report. Take a look. India has rolled out one of its boldest incentives yet to attract global AI and cloud computing investment.
Well, in the Union budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced a tax holiday, effectively zero taxes until 2047 on revenues that are earned by foreign cloud companies, cloud servicing providing companies from services sold outside India, provided those workloads are run from data centers located inside India.
Revenues from Indian customers, however, will be taxed domestically and routed through locally incorporated resellers.
The budget also proposes a 15% cost plus safe harbor for Indian data center operators servicing related foreign entities. Now, the move signals a strategic shift, positioning data centers and AI infrastructure as a core pillar of India's long-term economic and digital growth strategy.
Now, the policy comes amid a global rush by U.S. tech giants to expand AI-ready data centers. Google has committed $15 billion to build an AI hub and expand data centers in India.
While Microsoft plans to invest $17.5 billion by 2029 to scale its AI and cloud footprint, Amazon has raised its total planned investment in India to about $75 billion by 2030.
Domestic players are also scaling up. India's total data center power capacity is projected to rise from over 1 gigawatt today to more than 8 gigawatt by 2030, which is backed by investments exceeding $30 billion.
Despite strong investor interest, execution risks remain. Power shortages, high electricity costs, water stress, land availability, and state-level approvals could slow the expansion and raise operating costs for energy-intensive AI workloads. Analysts note that while the tax holiday may attract global big tech, smaller domestic cloud players could face margin pressure due to reseller requirements.
Alongside AI infrastructure, the budget deepens India's technology push, expanding incentives for electronics manufacturing, rare earth corridors, and export-friendly e-commerce reforms further highlight India's ambition to become a global technology and supply chain hub. The success of this strategy will ultimately depend on whether policy incentives translate into reliable infrastructure and sustained domestic innovation.
From AI chefs in China to robots learning human expressions, machines are no longer just tools. They are starting to understand, they're adapting and interacting.
And as artificial intelligence enters our kitchens and our conversations, the line between human and machine is getting blurrier than ever. So here's a look at how robots are learning to cook, communicate, and connect. Here's a report.
In Hangzhou, East China's Zhejiang province, a fully robotic restaurant has begun trial operations where AI-powered machines cook and serve an entire range of dishes, drinks, and desserts. Inside, a cooking robot prepares classic Chinese favorites like 3-cup chicken, following preset programs. It adds ingredients, seasons, stirs, and tosses, all automatically, to create a freshly cooked dish in minutes.
The food tastes good and suits my preferences. It would be even better if it were a bit more tender.
When I was young, I saw robots cooking in cartoons. Now it feels like a childhood dream has come true.
The restaurant's menu offers over 100 dishes, focusing on the cuisine of Hangzhou. There are also 24 seasonal specialities inspired by China's traditional solar terms, blending modern technology with ancient culinary customs. More than 10 robots are in operation, handling everything from cooking and noodle making to serving, coffee making, and floor cleaning, covering every stage of the dining experience. Engineers at the Columbia University have built a robotic face that can learn to move its lips in sync with speech and singing by watching itself in a mirror and observing humans online. The aim is to make humanoid robots appear less uncanny when interacting face-to-face. Rather than programming fixed rules, the team used a two-step observational learning approach. First, a robotic face with 26 motors made thousands of random expressions in front of a mirror, learning how movements translate into visible lip shapes. And next, it watched recordings of people talking and singing, picking up how human mouth movements relate to sound.
Hello. I am Emo, a robot designed to simulate emotions and interact with humans in a more natural way. How can I assist you today?
Bonjour. With both models combined, the robot can translate audio into coordinated motor actions and lip syncing across different languages.
Cat, father, spa.
Over in cricket now, the International Cricket Council has said it has not yet received any official communication from the Pakistan Cricket Board regarding a boycott of Pakistan's T20 World Cup match against India.
Well, in a statement, ICC said, quote, the ICC respects the roles of governments in matters of national policy. This decision is not in the interest of the global game or the welfare of fans worldwide, including millions in Pakistan. The ICC hopes that the PCB will consider the significant and long-term implications for cricket in its own country, as this is likely to impact the global cricket ecosystem, which it is itself a member of and beneficiary of.
The Pakistan government on Sunday cleared the national team's participation in the T20 World Cup, which is co-hosted by India and Sri Lanka. However, it stated that Pakistan would not take the field for the league stage match against arch rivals India on February 15th in Colombo. They did not specify any reason behind the decision. Under the hybrid model adopted by the ICC, Pakistan is scheduled to play all its matches in Sri Lanka.
If Pakistan boycotts the fixture against India, it will forfeit the match and lose 2 points. The ICC's playing conditions also state that Pakistan's net run rate will be affected by the forfeit, while India's net run rate will remain unaffected.
Pakistan had earlier threatened to boycott the tournament after the ICC rejected Bangladesh's request to shift its T20 World Cup matches from India to Sri Lanka. Bangladesh had refused to travel to India, citing security concerns, but the ICC found no merit in the plea and replaced Bangladesh with Scotland.
Steven Spielberg has joined yet another illustrious club. The filmmaker achieved EGOT status after winning a Grammy Award in the Best Music Film category for the documentary Music by John Williams.
Now, the Grammy completes Spielberg's collection of the entertainment industry's 4 major art awards, and this is a coveted feat that has been achieved by 20 other artists across film, television, music, and theater. The Grammy-winning Music by John Williams from Disney Plus's Chronicles, the legendary composer's career, and his decades-long partnership with Spielberg, which began with the Sugarland Express and includes classics such as Jaws, Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan. Spielberg's Oscar resume alone places him in rare company. He has received 9 Oscar nominations in the director category. He won the prize twice for Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. As a producer, Spielberg holds the record for the most Academy Award nominations.
On television, Spielberg won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Animated Program for A Pinky and the Brain Christmas, and 3 Primetime Emmys for Outstanding Limited or Anthology Series, Band of Brothers, Taken, The Pacific. In 2022, Spielberg won a Tony when he produced the musical A Strange Loop, alongside his wife, Kate Capshaw, and another EGOT recipient, Jennifer Hudson. With Spielberg's Grammy win, the EGOT Club remains one of the smallest and most exclusive honors in entertainment.
And with that, we call a wrap to World DNA for today. News and updates will follow on the other side. We leave you with some climate stories that have been making headlines across the world. Thanks for joining and stay tuned.